Welcome back to Executive Suite. I'm Ted Nesi, and now I'm pleased to be joined by Cristina Garmendia. She's Chief Customer Officer and co-founder of OpportunitySpace, and it's an interesting project. We're going to dive into how it works. So, Cristina, just to get people started, what is OpportunitySpace?
So OpportunitySpace is an online information platform and marketplace for undervalued real estate. And what people, if they've heard of us before, they know we market government-owned real estate. So city, state, and quasi-governmental owned entities all have real estate that is for sale.
Why do they have land that's for sale? How would they end up? People might think, well, are you selling City Hall? But no, it's not like that. What do they have on their books?
Thanks for asking. So there's a couple of different kinds of properties that governments end up having. Sometimes it's surplus. So something that happens regularly is fire stations need to be close to where the people are and populations move around. Mm-hmm. So every now and then a fire station has to be rebuilt in a different neighborhood. So that's something that happens on a regular basis. That's surplus. But then governments have been more and more, especially with the recession, they've become the owner of distressed properties. So vacant lots, abandoned houses, foreclosed upon.
Certainly we've seen a lot of that in Providence and Central Falls around here.
Exactly. So they become the owners, the caretakers, and their next task is actually getting rid of it and giving it back to the private sector. And that's something that, that's one reason why we have land banks, redevelopment authorities, revitalization authorities. Those are all kind of government entities whose job is to help take these properties that have been distressed and put them back on the market.
And yet, a recent New York Times article about your project, which is really cool that you've already had that kind of publicity, the Times said, quote, managing and marketing their real estate portfolios is something municipalities are, quote, notoriously deficient at doing. Notoriously deficient, tough words from the New York Times there. Why is that? Why are they having trouble doing a good job with this?
One, it wasn't their job to begin with, so they've sort of fallen into this position. It used to not be such a big deal, but when the recession hit, they suddenly became responsible for a lot more. So, and the structure of government hasn't exactly kept up. So that's a good reason why, and some of the bad reasons why. Is that technology, government's not really great at keeping up with the latest technology. As much as they try, they're usually about 10 years behind the private sector. So they're right on track. Corporate asset management, where corporations, like companies like Target and Walmart, they own a lot of property too, and they've only in the past decade really gotten a hold of their inventory.
Sure, yeah. People don't think of them that way, but Target is a massive landowner because of all the stores dotted all over the country.
Yeah, so governments, city governments in particular, also have this, they're now the owner of many more properties, and so just now they're thinking about what does government asset management look like, and what's the responsible stewardship of that mean. So now technology, my company, is coming in and providing a solution for that.
And you're test driving it, working on it right here in Rhode Island. I should disclose, the Rhode Island Foundation, sponsor of this show, is one of your partners in that
yes.
work, but this is interesting regardless of who they're involved with. But tell me, why Rhode Island? Why did you decide, or how did it come about that this was a good place to test drive what you're working on?
One, it's just down the road. We're based in Boston, Massachusetts at the Harvard Innovation Lab. And one thing I was really interested in testing, we're doing a pilot program. So we've been in operation for a year, and Louisville, Kentucky was our very first client. But what we wanted to test in our pilot program was, well, we have this technology, we believe it can be useful to any number of cities and towns, but is there a limit to how small they can be? And different economic conditions of cities. So we're interested in testing our product and seeing, one, whether we could sell it, and two, whether it would be useful to people within the city governments themselves at these different scales. So Providence, Pawtucket, Central Falls, and the town of Cumberland all represent very different kinds of realities. So that's something we really wanted to understand better. And one reason why we're doing what we do is because the way governments sell property is different across different municipalities. It's not the same. You might be familiar with You might be a Boston developer. You might know Boston, but you certainly don't know how to walk into.
You can't take your knowledge of Boston selling property and just bring it to Providence because it's a whole different system down here.
It's a whole different world down here.
So I think we actually have some video we can give people a sense of what the website looks like that you have. But how does it work? Tell people. So let's say I'm a developer, for example. How would I go? You can see it there, how this website works. What would I be going here and doing with this site as I get on there?
Well, one, you can select your city, and it's pulling up the map now, and what we've done is we've mapped the entire inventory of within the municipality of government-owned property. And what's at the very top with a red banner called Opportunities, those are the properties that government has designated for sale. And there's a couple different ways that they sell properties, but that way you can see, one, what is it that they own, and then what is it that they're actively trying to
So it's
market.
not just a list of everything they're selling, it's a list of everything they own, some of which they're not selling?
Right. But every person has a price, every property has a price. So theoretically, if you, just because they haven't designated for sale doesn't mean they're not interested in learning about demand. So we make it possible when you go to a parcel profile, this is a parcel profile, who to contact is right on the same page. All the information we've collected across different data sets, across different departments and that kind of thing is aggregated in one place. So if the property is for sale, one, you know who to talk to. If they've done any assessments of the property or if there's an RFP out, it's all in one location. And one of the services we offer, which I really like, is you don't have to visit our site every day. That's most of the time when a city issues an RFP, most people don't hear about it.
Sure.
They don't know about it. But you can sign up for an alert on a specific property on our website. So if a status of a property changes, you can get an alert right in your email inbox instead of having to follow whatever it is the city used. They might put it in your local newspaper. And that's usually the limit of what cities do to market their property.
Where'd you get the idea?
Well, my background's actually in community development. And I met my co-founder, Alex Kapoor, at graduate school. We went to school at the Harvard Kennedy School of Government. And his background's in government transparency. So it's government transparency and community development. And something I didn't know when I went to Harvard was that governments own so much property. I didn't know that at all. I went to school to learn more about policy.
Sure.
And so to learn that governments, one, they're the largest owner of real estate in the country. And two, they don't know what they own. So we found this out, very disturbing fact out during our thesis when we were interviewing cities across the country about their process, and most of them couldn't tell us what they didn't know what they owned. They'd never seen it all together in one place. So that's one reason why we started off showing the entire inventory.
Just to make them put together a list of what they have. So we only have about a minute left. Tell me, are people using it so far? What's the response been?
Yeah, it's been great. So so far in Rhode Island, so just to give you some context, we have 2,400 properties listed in the 4 cities that we're in Rhode Island, and 450 of those are for sale. And the majority of those are in Providence. But so the number of users that we have over 1,000 people following us in social media and on our newsletter. And so you can sign up for that on our website.
What's the URL?
OpportunitySpace.org.
Perfect.
And in addition to that, you can register as a user. This gives you this, access to the services I described before, like being able to receive alerts, contact the owner directly. And we have over 900 users today.
That's great. Well, we'll be keeping track of what you do. Thank you so much, Cristina, for being with us. And thank you for tuning in this week on Executive Suite. Be sure to join us next week when our guest will be Tim Hebert from Atreon Networking Solutions. See you next week here on Executive Suite.